Hey everybody, today is Wednesday, April the 29th. I'm forgetting just like everybody else. My name is Tom Story. I'm the team leader of the Story team with Royal LePage, and we sell properties in Toronto, primarily in the 416 area code. If you've been following us for a while, you know we're really big on stats and try to understanding what's happening fundamentally in the marketplace, but not just looking at the stats, but kind of giving you the ground level approach of as a team that's out there on the streets, basically doing this day after day after day, um, giving you a little bit more insight and information. The stats are one thing, but here's how we actually look at them and make sense of them. So what I'm going to do is share my screen with you, and I'm going to go through a quick presentation that I've put together, and I've been presenting this to some of the big six banks. We've been on lots of webinars talking about this, and I think it will be valuable for you. So without any further ado, let's take a look. Okay, so before we get into all of the numbers, I'll just kind of give you a reintroduction of who I am, who my team is, and kind of what my credentials are. I'm the team leader of the Story team in Toronto. We do between 75 to 100 transactions a year, usually about 75 sales, and help our clients lease out their properties as well, which adds up. In terms of Canada overall, we've been ranked top 35 under 35, which I'm very proud of. And just in Toronto sales, we're top 1% of the marketplace. So these aren't my gut feelings. These are what the numbers are saying and how to make sense of them. So we'll quickly jump into, all right, what's the impact? Let me move myself out of the way. What's the impact that that COVID's going to have on the Toronto real estate market? Because, you know, basically March 15th is when the pause button was hit, and that's when everything changed. So I want to show you since then, a lot of the numbers I'm going to look at today are basically what's been happening in April of 2020, because April is when things really kind of stopped. Sales are way down. Prices are holding right now, and I'll go through what I mean by that. But here's what you need to know, basically from what I'm seeing on my side of things. First question is, could you still potentially list or buy a property right now? And the simple answer is yes, like legally you can. Real estate services were deemed as essential from the initial list from the government of Ontario. However, the reason that they made us essential for the most part was to get transactions that had already happened to the finish line. So transactions that we had sold in January, February, or early March, get them to close. We were told pretty early on by our governing bodies that we should stop all face-to-face interaction with our clients until the state of emergency is lifted. So a lot of stuff right now is happening virtually. What I would say is that there are opportunities for buyers right now. And at the very beginning of this, I put out videos where my whole kind of thought process was like, yes, there's opportunities, just don't do it in a predatory way. And the more I look at it right now, like there's some sellers that actually would need your help. What's going to happen right now is any property listed for sale right now, I would say the seller is in a position that they really need to sell it. Otherwise, they would not be on the market. No one in their right mind will list a property right now to try and get the full potential of price point during a global pandemic. They would wait. So anyone that's on the market right now needs to sell. And that means that there are going to be some outlier sales in April, May that are lower than what they would have been. And I'll go into what's happening with the prices overall in a second. Okay, so overall sales volume. Sales in Toronto right now, year over year, so keep that in mind, year over year are down about 80%. So that's a big number, but that's very encouraging to me. What that tells me is that most of the general public and the realtors are following the rules, and they're really not trying to make anything happen right now unless it's absolutely essential. Now, something to keep in mind is that even though sales are down 80%, new listings, so new inventory to the market, is also down 65%. So if less new listings come to the market, and even though sales are down here, at some point they're going to level off. So if new listings go down almost at the same rate that sales go down, prices will hold for now. It's simple supply and demand. Then we'll jump into the question that I think I'm getting more than anything right now is like, all right, this is all great. Our prices, are they going down? Like they've got to go down at some point, right? Like people aren't out there looking for properties. So prices are still up from at the same point last year, but I think those numbers are skewed. We're talking about a 12-month period, so of course they're going to be up in a market like Toronto. And when the Toronto Real Estate Board puts out their numbers every month, it's always year over year. Okay, it's not month over month, and I think that's actually more valuable data. So we are going to see sales that happened in March, April, and upcoming into May that are going to be lower than they would have been in the first 2 months of 2020. Because like I said before, most of those sellers are in a situation where they really needed to sell the property. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the market. And that's going to be reflected in the sales price. And something just to remember, I always kind of caveat it with this. It's kind of relative. So if you're buying and selling in the same marketplace, any loss or gains you would have experienced, for the most part, are going to be relative. They're going to equal out across the board. So if you're selling in a great market, well, then you have to buy in a great market. If you're selling in a bad market, well, then you have to buy in a bad market. So it's really relative to your situation. Unless you're just exiting the market and not going to buy again, I would certainly hold on and wait until the state of emergency is lifted. So can you buy 100% virtually? Is this going to become the norm? The one thing I'll say is, like, this has happened in new condo sales and new home sales for the past 20 years. People buy properties off floor plans all the time. But what I will say is that most of those that were happening like that, it wasn't their primary residence. Now, sometimes it was, but for the most part, it wasn't. It was an investment property. So for investors, I think you can buy virtually because it's a numbers game, right? You're trying to run the numbers and you're trying to see what makes sense. However, virtual property sales for your primary residence, they are going to happen right now, but it's not going to become the norm after this. People love real estate. They like to touch it. They like to see it. We've had a few buyers that really needed a place where we were actually going in to the property by ourselves and doing FaceTimes. And they thought they really liked it. And then when it got to the point when they came in and actually saw it in person, they didn't. So it's just not the same. It's never going to be the same as being there in person. The only way this can really happen is if the listing agent and the seller use the technology which is needed, which is the virtual floor plans, which is the high-end photos and videos and the virtual tours. But again, it's really good, but it's not like being there in person. If you're a seller right now or a buyer, and because some buildings, some condo buildings are just straight out, flat out not allowing showings, so you can't get in there. And if you really need to buy and you want that property, what I would recommend is you're going to start seeing a lot of offers that are conditional on viewing the property at a later date. So just keep that in mind. And last thing, so will this become the norm to buy virtually? No. It's going to happen right now because it needs to be, but this is not going to become the norm. Now, the big question is, well, what the hell happens next? If you've watched my channel before, you know I always come back to this chart. I always come back to this chart because anyone that tells you they know what's going to happen in the future is lying. What I know is that over the past 40 years in the Toronto market, through the crash in the early 90s, which basically took prices to a point where they didn't come back until 1995, that was a bad crash. We had 2008 on the screen here, that dot. And see, in 2008, we actually didn't go down in value. We didn't go up in value. We just leveled off, sales went down. And then we had the second half of 17. So we had a crash and two corrections in 40 years, but you average out all the ups and all the downs. And right here in the corner, that red number, the Toronto real estate market has gone up over 7% a year through all the ups and all the downs. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future. It's going to be a supply and demand issue. The three fundamentals of the marketplace in any market are going to be interest rates. So can you borrow money? And is it affordable? So check, it is. Second is going to be immigration and population growth. So right now, obviously, all of that is on pause. I do expect, however, when the economy opens up again and the borders open up, a lot of people are going to want to come to Canada and specifically the GTA. So that is number two. And then number three is unemployment. So this is a big question mark right now. We don't know how bad this is going to get. I haven't seen any real numbers yet. I'd like to see those numbers before I comment any further on it. But basically, those are the three fundamentals. If two are strong and one is weak, our market should be okay. If two are weak, that's when we're going to start seeing prices going down. But as of right now, it's really up to anybody to figure out what's going to happen next. Thank you so much for watching that video. If you have any questions about real estate, my personal email is tom@storyteam.ca, or you can reach out to us on our Instagram, which is @thestoryteam. If you like this video, give it a like, give it a follow, subscribe to us. We would really appreciate your support. Have an awesome day. Stay safe, stay healthy. And if you ever need any type of advice at all, even if it's like us dropping groceries at your front door, we're here for people. We've built our whole business on relationships, and I truly mean that. Have an awesome day, and we'll talk soon.